Prime Minister Imran Khan has directed to formulate a comprehensive roadmap in consultations with the provinces to address the issue of stunting. President Dr. Arif Alvi meets Amir of Kuwait Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmad Al Sabah to condole death of his predecessor Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmad Al Sabah. Dr. Waqar Masood Khan has been appointed as Special Assistant to Prime Minister. Waqar Masood will be Special Assistant to Prime Minister for Revenue. A NAP court in Islamabad indicts Asif Ali Zardari in the Tata water supply and Park Lane references. The former president pleads not guilty to the charges. National Accountability Bureau approves to launch probe into alleged illegal appointments in the Bank of Khyber and decides to review the Malam Jabba case. Americans Harvey Alter and Charles Rice, together with Britain Michael Houghton, win the Nobel Medicine Prize for the discovery of the hepatitis C virus. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa beat Sindh by 8 wickets in the 11th match of National T20 Cup 2020 in Multan. Meanwhile, Balochistan is playing against Central Punjab in second match. BTV Sports is telecasting the entire event live. But that's all for the moment. For more details and live streaming, log on to our website world.ptv.com.pk. You can find us on Facebook page with the name of PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. Thanks a lot for watching, and it's goodbye for now.
Truck art from Pakistan is renowned to the world for its attraction and unique sense of artistic taste. Pakistani truck art is Pakistan's cultural identity. One look at a truck with artistic work over it, and the first thing which would come to your mind would be Pakistan.
I've been driving truck for the last 5 years. Not only it's my interest and passion, but also is a source of income for my family and I.
We open up the whole body of a truck and piece it down to various parts to get the painting process smoother. Base frame of the truck gets painted first. Then we move on to the rest of the body where we prepare the whole base structure. Once the foundation is all checked, it is sent to the painter, and then after it gets painted, it's further sent to the decoration department. It takes around 2 months to get the procedure completed.
Trucks in Pakistan are decorated with the slogans and pictures all over their bodies from local folklore that gives them a Pakistani look. These slogans are the fortune cookies of Pakistan. After reading them, you have something to ponder over your own life and sometimes about the life around you.
I started working on truck art since 1980s and continued doing it till now. There's a lot of work involved in painting a truck. We start with basic coloring of the blank surface. It takes at least 2 to 4 days on painting a truck. Everything that includes flowery art and bird design is taken into consideration. We also invest in scenic beauties like Kashmir, Sawat, Khyber, Shahi Mosque Lahore, and anything that comes off beautiful to general public.
A humorous slogan will redirect the seriousness in your life. A political slogan will make you think of the political landscape in Pakistan. And the poems of Pakistani poets make you contemplate over everything in general.
I've been working as a truck artist for 50 years. I entered this industry in 1968. We start painting a truck once it's all in its functioning state. My trade is calligraphy and paint. I have painted around 1,000 trucks since 1968.
The beautiful and artsy looks of these trucks continue to arrest the attention of any and all bystanders. If you
Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Viewers, once again we are going to talk about politics of Pakistan, particularly the politics of agitation or the promised agitation of PDM, Pakistan Democratic Movement. There was a time when we thought that they had everything worked out and they are going to actually start agitating as soon as possible. But then there are serious nuances that media doesn't pick up. For example, one nuance was at that time when APC or MPC was going on, Maulana Fazlur Rahman had demanded that instead of launching any agitation movement, the first thing that everybody needs to do is to resign from all elected bodies, particularly the National Assembly, the Senate, the Sindh Assembly and Punjab Assembly. But that didn't happen. So it was quite clear at that time that maybe in coming days, whatever strategy is going to be adopted is going to actually backfire. But then we saw a date, an announced date for a massive public rally in Quetta that was supposed to take place on 11th of this month. But yesterday we heard that the opposition of PDM has decided that they are going to delay it till 18th, and it is going to take place in Quetta. But now it seems, today it was announced that that venue has been shifted to Karachi. What exactly is going on behind all these changing aspects of politics? Today, Sheikh Rashid Ahmed also made a claim. He said that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari or People's Party were expecting that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari will be made the head of PDM. But instead, the joint opposition decided to go with Maulana Fazlur Rahman, and that's why two predictions. One, People's Party is going to very soon separate its face from PDM. Second aspect is also important. He claimed that Shahbaz Sharif will one day, sooner or later, create his own Sheen League that will come out of Muslim League Noon, the main opposition party. These are many interesting claims that one has to take into cognizance. Then, of course, there is the issue of one sedition FIR being filed against Mian Nawaz Sharif and various leaders of opposition. In Lahore, we hear from various sources that a debate is going on whether to withdraw this FIR or whether to actually press on. We are going to talk about all these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Sitara Ayaz Saiba, is from opposition, senator from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being part of the program. Next to her is Ahmed Jawad Saab, Central Information Secretary, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. We will be joined by other guests, one on Skype and one on telephone. The moment they join us, I'm going to introduce them. Let me start with you, Senator Saiba. Why is it that the opposition cannot seem to get its act together? Always shifting sands.
Yeah, this is strange, in fact, that they first announced this and then they said that we are going to show a power, it will be a power show and it will start from Quetta.
Okay.
And then they keep on changing the places and timing.
And you're not part of that?
Opposition, yes, I am, but to some extent I don't agree with some of their points.
Okay.
So this is what they are doing, which I feel that there is something between them, between the opposition is going on, especially the two big parties.
Okay.
Because I think that the small parties, the regional parties or the provincial parties, they have their own stakes.
Okay.
But the two big parties, they have some confusions in between their own parties. So I guess because of that, it is going to be delayed. But
you're talking about two parties. One is PMLN. There used to be a time when people said that PMLN has a divided leadership. Shehbaz Sharif wanted to steer it in one direction, Nawaz Sharif or Mariam in another. Now that seems to have been resolved. Mariam seems to have triumphed and they are actually steering the party. Are you talking about People's Party and it's changing heart? Are you actually qualifying?
I still believe that in both the parties.
Okay.
They have some differences and they should come out of that, because as a political parties, they have all their rights to go for dharnas or agitations or whatever. They have this right to go there. But right now what is happening, I think some of their own people are not happy with that, you know, to come up so...
That is quite evident from your comment as well, right? Let me bring in Ahmed Jawad Sahab. Ahmed Jawad Sahab, we have to talk about two very important aspects. One, sedition case, FIR, against Nawaz Sharif and the Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir as well, and umpteen other leaders. This is one aspect that I want some clarity on from you, whether this is a policy or whether it was some automatic reaction to whatever was being stated on television, whether you are going to pursue this case or not as government, because you are government at the center and in Punjab. The second aspect is the opposition is actually threatening to march on Islamabad eventually. So what will be your strategy? First, sedition cases.
Farrukh, if you allow me, I'll come to the sedition also.
Yeah.
But basically, today's subject is about PDM, opposition's movement and the national agitation plan which they are making.
Yeah.
So I would like to go into the history because it will help us to understand that where this movement can go and what are the challenges and threats.
Right.
In Pakistan, the successful national agitations which could remove a ruler, I think it starts from Ayub Khan era, when there was a movement against him led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and obviously Ayub had to leave. And the second was against Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and it was Pakistan Qaumi Ittihad. Almost 16, 17 parties, PNA merged together, and that also successfully removed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto as a result of that, I would say. And then I think the third opposition grand alliance which was made, it was against Musharraf.
Okay.
When there was,
you're not counting an MRD.
MRD, yes. MRD you can also count, and but that also did not result into any change. And then during the Musharraf time, again the opposition parties they got together, and even PTI was also part of that. And but that movement also could not bring any result. And I think then we can count a successful agitation which removed ultimately Musharraf, or he was pushed back. That was Lawrence movement. So and then we come to 2015 Dharna by PTI. It was I mean it had a big impact. One of the biggest.
But it could not bring down the government.
But it also did not bring down the government.
Right.
So this is the history which I'm describing, because what I want to highlight that it's not easy to have a national agitation and successfully lead it towards the change in the government or the political party which is in the government. So it's not really easy.
But you gave me a very interesting perspective also. If you count all these examples, everybody made a critical mistake of uniting all the enemies. I mean, opening too many fronts.
Yes.
That seems to be the case with your party as well right now, your government.
There is one difference, Farrukh.
Okay.
Again, your point also has
Okay.
enlightened me something.
Right.
That this is the only time when the government and the establishment, they are together.
Okay.
So if you go back in the history, the establishment and the government, they were not aligned, but the establishment, the opposition were aligned in some cases.
I mean, for example, Ayub Khan?
Against
Ayub Khan?
Ayub Khan, so I think
Zia
Yahya Khan, I mean, who came
Okay,
after
these
Ayub
are-
Khan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was helpful.
Okay.
Then
Very effectively, you have taken the discussion in another direction. But the question was about sedition.
Yeah.
Are you going to press on with the sedition cases against Mir Nawaz Sharif?
Farrukh, for the sedition, in my opinion, it must be dealt not as a political slogan. It must not be dealt as a political narrative or a political policy or a government policy.
Okay.
It should be dealt according to the law of the land. And only the courts, the judiciary should decide. Yes, as a citizen of Pakistan, I might have an objection against you and
Right.
I can take you to the court.
Okay.
But it
I
cannot
hope
be
you
a
don't.
narrative.
I hope you don't, but let me...
I'm just explaining.
No, but this is what I'm
explaining.
saying.
As a citizen of
Are you going
Pakistan,
to
it is my right
No,
that
hang on.
I can lodge a case, FIR against
And this is what
somebody I think that he is...
I'm going to come back to you. This is the question that I was asking, whether you're going to support the withdrawal of that FIR or whether you are going to take the FIR to the courts.
There is no need to support and there is no need to
Withdraw.
even withdraw or
Right.
even initiate. It is the right of every citizen if somebody wants to do it,
Right.
and the court should decide.
Right. Sitara Sahaba wants to come in. Please go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Yes, what he said, he's right. Actually, this is what I was going to say, that
Okay.
let the
Why is
people...
it that both of you keep
No,
on agreeing?
I'm not going to agree. I'm going to say something else also.
Okay.
But on this issue, yes, it is, let the court decide what they want. But one thing I just want to say again as opposition, that we are the one who passed laws. Recently, we passed these laws, which
Okay.
we are facing now. These are, why did we pass that at
Okay.
first hand? So we are the one who are doing all these things. Maybe
See,
and then
this
at
is the problem.
Yes,
This is the problem.
And
Hang on,
then
hang on.
when we start,
And then hang on, with due respect. You are a lawmaker, right? This is actually my question, that why did you pass it? And you are supposed to answer me, right? Then you start asking these questions.
No,
Who's going to answer them?
No, let me, even at that time, I was not, when the opposition, when they were saying we are not going to pass, then, I mean, at the end, we had to, I'm the only one in opposition. The rest
Right.
is the big parties. Huh?
Okay.
They are the one. My point is that why we are going to that extent, why we are, you can go to any extent against the government.
Okay.
That is something else, because politically what he explained it, and he said that yes, it is our history that we had movements against the governments, and I was the one actually first to receive this lawyers movement at the Atak bridge. I was there to receive them. We had this history, but right now when you have anything against the government, we don't have to, the narrative is not right at this time, the opposition narrative, against the state institution.
Right.
Let them do their job. And one thing which I, again, if today the PTI, they are in government, and they say everything is fine and we are going to do this, but tomorrow if they are not in a government, they are going to do the same thing. And the big parties, whoever is in government,
here's the problem.
They're so confused and a problem.
This argument is quite intriguing.
Yes, and we
this
have
argument,
to solve this. We have to come out of this.
This argument that don't go after state institutions is a big one.
Yes.
But there is a counter argument coming from within PMLN that Shehbaz Sharif was president of his own party, and he was also leader of opposition. And for 2 years, he kept on pursuing the same line of reasoning, he spent a lot of time behind bars. He was ill, and then there was a lot of criticism lobbed against him, and that's why that argument has failed. And the best argument to do, go ahead with, is to confront whosoever stands with the government. So you don't agree with that?
To some extent, yes, but to some extent, I don't agree. You know, as I said, that
Right.
I am in opposition, but I don't agree to some of their points.
Yeah, and you have the moral courage to even confront your own party's leadership. You are from ANP,
yes,
but you can criticize them as well.
If the opposition is, as I said, that is their right to go for jalsas, it is their political right to speak in their assembly. But there is always a limit. At this stage, Pakistan is not in a position to go for such kind of things, which we...
Have we ever been in that position?
We,
the country?
Never. But yes, this is, and why at even now, why we are so weak? Because of all these, because of all our history, we did not.
When you said all these, I thought you were talking about PTI.
Yes, about PTI also.
Okay.
I was very much against of their then also. Let me tell you, let me ask them also. They are in government. I am not supporting the government right now. I'm just talking about the general public. I'm just talking about Pakistan.
All right.
You know, when they were going for a dharna, they were also doing the dharna for themselves, not for Pakistan.
Okay.
And the same thing now, opposition is doing it. They are not coming up for any national issues.
Right. Ahmed
I'm
Jawad
going
Sahab,
for a jalsa and jalsa.
Ahmed Jawad Sahab, I understand when you say that this movement doesn't compare, right? When you look back to the other movements, it doesn't compare to them. But the question right now is, if they actually carry it out, and if they come with a long march to Islamabad, the way they are promising, what will be your party's strategy? How are you going to diffuse it? Are you going to allow them to sit like you sat? And remember this, that leaders never suffer. The common people like yours truly actually have problem in commuting in those days. So what exactly will be your strategy?
Farrukh, we had one long march from JUI, Maulana Fazlur Rahman, which resulted into a dharna also. And you are right, during that long march and during that dharna, the life in Islamabad was totally disturbed, and people were suffering. And even those common men who came in that long march, they were suffering.
Okay.
I remember that they were being treated for pneumonia and cold and so many other diseases, because it was the cold winter. They were lying outside, and so it was a terrible situation.
Right. Ahmed Jawad Sahab, I'm going to interject here. Let me welcome the third guest who joins us. Taj Haider Sahab, Senior Leader, Pakistan People's Party, joins us on telephone. Taj Haider Sahab, thank you very much. Always grateful for your participation. Now the question right now is that your party and your government in Sindh was the first one to actually move against public movement during coronavirus crisis. And now it seems that you are part of PDM and you are going to hold a jalsa in Karachi in coming days. We saw a recent jalsa also, but you are going to actually go for even bigger event. How do you reconcile that with the present and constant danger of coronavirus, sir?
So once again, coronavirus is coming to the rescue of the selected government.
Okay. But is it not a serious argument?
No. I mean, if you are observing all the precautions like we did yesterday, then I think there is not such a serious risk if you observe all the precautions that are specified.
Okay. Regarding SOPs that you are talking about, do you honestly think that it is possible, if you are going to bring together so many people on one venue, that SOPs can seriously be followed out?
No, I mean, if the organizers decide that SOPs have to be followed, and the parties which are participating, they make it compulsory on their workers, like we did yesterday in the rally that we held in Karachi. Then of course everybody shall wear masks. There is much more danger of coronavirus in many of the shopping malls that when the traffic is running around. But this should not be used as an excuse for imposing a fascist government in the country.
Right. The concern, sir, was that what if you carry out these jalsas or these public rallies, and then there is a spike in Karachi, which is under your control. But regardless of that, sir, can you also help us understand why is it that PDM keeps on changing its date of important public rally? First it was 11th, now it is 18th, then it was Quetta, and the venue keeps on changing. Like now it is being said that it is going to be Karachi, not Quetta.
I mean, these are initial teething problems. There are many opinions when you are going to organize a jalsa or a big gathering of the people. Quite a few things have to be seen, and I think it's really up to the leaders to really, but originally these teething problems do occur in every movement. And then when things get on course, then everything is settled and everything is done according to a program.
Right. I asked this question because Sheikh Rashid Saab today pointed out that maybe it was basically because of your party's concern that these things are happening. On the other side, we heard other opposition leaders talking about the anniversary of Sania Karsaz. That might have actually caused the PDM to shift its venue to Karachi, because
I really don't know the details, and I mean the details are not so important even. But perhaps Maulana Sahab wanted that all the leaders, all the heads of all the parties should come to that jalsa. But then if the programs they don't coincide, if they are not available, if they have alternate programs in other places, then it becomes a problem. Perhaps I wouldn't have done it. I mean, if some leaders cannot participate, then of course there is going to be a series of these public meetings. They can participate there. But perhaps Maulana Sahab wanted that this was the first public meeting, and the heads of all the parties should be present at that public meeting.
Right.
That is my guess, and that is what I have heard. But as I said, I really don't know the details of why this happened, and these details are not important at all.
Right. Sir, Taj Hathor Saab, Senior Leader, Pakistan People's Party, thank you very much, sir, for joining us in the program. Thank you very much for your participation. Let me come back to the studio. Ahmed Jawad Saab, I stopped you at that moment. You were making a point. Now we have the luxury that you can also reflect on People's Party's point of view as well. Do you see that despite all this, they are getting together and maybe they can pose a threat to the government?
Farrukh, in fact, when I was talking about the history, every movement needs to have a very strong reason and justification to motivate the public to come on the streets. And in my opinion, today that is not the situation. For example, Taj Hathor Saab, he used the word fascist government. I mean, this government has, this political party, PTI, has come into the government with the same way Pakistan People's Party came into the government in 2008, Pakistan Muslim League Noon came into the government in 2013, and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf came into the government in 2018.
Right.
So last two governments, they were allowed to complete their 5 years despite there was very serious issues.
Allowed by whom?
No, not allowed at all.
I mean, you can use any word, but they completed 5 years.
Okay.
And when we say allowed, it means the opposition allowed them, or the establishment allowed them.
The people of Pakistan allowed them.
Yeah, people of Pakistan allowed them.
Establishment.
So I mean, it is a public
yeah, but honestly,
opposition, they are all stakeholders.
Ahmed Jawad Sahab, honestly, you don't think that there might be grounds for any kind of agitation? Inflation being one aspect, and post-corona economic indicators, especially when it comes to unemployment increasing, might be another one.
Farrukh, if we look at the post-corona phase, if we assume that corona second wave is not going to come, so I will use this term, the post-corona phase, I think the indicators Pakistan is having is much better than many countries in the world.
Okay.
Our stock exchange is rising, our currency is stable, our foreign remittance are increasing, our exports are increasing.
Employments?
The initiatives which has been started in the construction policy, I see in the coming months, in a few months, there will be a lot of employment generation because of those.
Right, but we are not there yet. You agree with that?
Yes, because the economic activity started in Pakistan after a gap of 6 months.
Right.
And it is just the second month. So obviously it might take a couple of months, but the economic activity has already started.
Okay.
And in my opinion, 2 to 3 months, Pakistan will be in a very good position as far as economic activity is concerned.
Right, and that is
not to forget the 3 big dams.
And more or less, that is the time when opposition actually plans to come to march to Islamabad.
So the opposition is basically trying to start this campaign. I mean, the selection of this timing is that if they let the PTI continue for another 3-4 months, perhaps there may not be any other reason.
Yeah, but they are.
So they are doing it. For them, it is a time that they don't let this government perform well.
But this is the argument, Satara Sahiba, that Maulana Fazlur Rahman actually raised a concern about, and he said that don't give them 2-3 months. And the opposition actually has given the government 2-3 months, because they are going to actually march on Islamabad in January or later.
It's already. I just want to add something. He
add or contradict?
Maybe, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
He has every right to contradict.
No, the thing is, when he says that to motivate general public, opposition can very easily right now motivate the general public because of so many issues. Unemployment is there, and then price hikes, and so many the taxes, and so many things are there where you can motivate, and people are ready to come out against the government. It is the ground reality if they agree or not.
No, hang on. With due respect, how do you conclude that people are ready to come out? Because we haven't seen any agitation which is not led by any political party.
No. This is what I'm going to come to this point. That I just want to contradict that people are ready to come out.
Yeah, and there is enough ground.
Yes, but right now when the opposition is coming up with a different agenda, not the Awami agenda, so maybe people are not coming out, but people are willing to come out against the government because they
What is the opposition's agenda right now?
Right now, you know that, as I said, that to some extent I agree with them, but their agenda right now is more or less personal. The more or less their agendas are personal, which is not Awami agenda.
But the handout of PDM that came after APC, that actually spoke about all these issues: unemployment, inflation, corruption.
So many people will, as I said, that there are so many things to motivate people. But till the date, people did not get any political party never asked for any hartal or anything against the government. Now when they are going for this thing, if they are clear on their issues, if they are clear that it is not only NAB, There are other issues also for which the opposition is going to go for Jalsa and Jalus. Then people will come out. Right? Tomorrow the government employees are going to come to Islamabad. They are going to march from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa over here because of their pension issues. There are so many issues. I don't know that who is the advisors to the Prime Minister.
Let me remind you the days when PTI was not in government, right? And you were a regular guest, and I used to talk about these matters back then also. Let me remind you that there seem to be systemic problems with Pakistan's governance structure. For example, pension is going to be a huge problem, and we have been discussing it for quite some time. Right now, instead of fighting among ourselves, shouldn't the government or opposition parties be working together to enhance the capacity of the state?
That is going to be an ideal thing, but the thing is
that won't happen.
Not the government, neither the opposition. They are sitting. Even the government is not sitting with them. Government cannot handle. Actually, it is not still, I think, if the government offer them, the Prime Minister offer to sit with the leaders of the opposition, I think that the problems will be
solved. Let me ask this question.
Both opposition and the government, both are not like playing well.
Ahmed Jawad Sahab, there are two examples of governance. One is Donald Trump way of governance, where he confronts everybody and stays in power. The second one is Lincoln's way of doing things. If you remember, Lincoln actually appointed his worst rivals to his cabinet, and he called it team of rivals, and he was very successful till the time he was ruling. The question right now is, why is it that PTI, instead of going for Lincoln's way, would go for something that remotely resembles Donald Trump's way, confronting everybody? With the exception of establishment.
Farrukh, I will not agree with the example of Trump. Yes, I will agree with the example of Lincoln. In Pakistan, this is not the situation. Trump is a very extreme example, and it is not liked anywhere, whether it is America or anywhere else. On the other hand, if we see in Pakistan, Imran Khan in the same time period has evolved as an international leader who is liked internationally by most of the top forums like United Nations, European Union, and many
there are records about it.
But there is no comparison.
With due respect, before becoming president of the US, Donald Trump was a television celebrity and a very successful brand name all over the world.
No, even during that time, I mean, his fame was very controversial, very sometimes uncivilized, sometimes unethical, sometimes immoral. I mean, he had a lot of allegations
but
during
you
that
realize
time.
You are taking us to that territory. I was talking about merely the governance style. In front of actually declaring every enemy of the state, why not actually reach out and build bridges?
I think, Farrukh, in fact, this is also a very interesting question, that why to make everybody enemy. I think the government is very successful keeping a governance system which is very much aligned with the establishment also. And even the Prime Minister also talked about it. And why not? I mean, in Pakistan, the past history,
Ahmed Jawad Sahab, in 3 years you are going to go back to the people to ask for more votes.
The people are not against...
Is it what you are going to say, vote for us because we are with the establishment?
I'm just answering the question.
You keep on saying
I'm just answering the question. When you say that PTI government has gone against everybody. No,
not
PTI government has not gone against everybody. PTI government has an alliance of certain political parties which obviously are not in opposition because they are in alliance with us. Number one. Number two, the establishment is the biggest stakeholder in the history of Pakistan, and rightly so. We have a history and we are not against them. We are aligned with them, and I think this is good for Pakistan.
So
it is a matter of
another thing.
It is a matter of two political parties, which basically their problem is the accountability.
No, with due respect, Maulana Fazlur Rahman is the third party, fourth party is Achak Zaisa, fifth party is ANP.
But JUAE alone cannot do anything. You know, last time they did They did try.
They reached
No, no,
but then they had to go back.
With due respect, hang on. I'm happy that finally you are going to disagree. But let me qualify one thing. I mean, you have already talked about establishment as if it is an entity, right? Let us assume for a second that it is what you call the state of Pakistan. Okay? For a second we have done it. Now let us talk about the electables. Your party got significant vote share.
Yeah.
But there are other 3-4 parties which got very significant vote share as well.
Yes.
And when you actually see the vote share that your party got, it might not be comparable to the entirety of electorate. Why are you confronting everybody that got elected from the people?
Yeah.
No, confrontation is not from our side. Our initiative is only on the accountability and not agreeing to any reconciliation ordinance, NRO, which has been done in the past. So that is the problem with the two. That is why I mentioned two political parties. The problem is with the top leadership, the two families of the two political parties who have come under the radar of the accountability, and for their survival, they are going for this kind of agitation. And Maulana Fazlur Rahman, I think his problem is, you see, PMLN is a big party. Pakistan People's Party has a province with the party. They are ruling in one province. Maulana Fazlur Rahman has got nothing now. He doesn't have province. He doesn't have any representation in the federal. So he is without everything. He doesn't have any state.
No, he has his son is sitting.
I mean, it's a small representation in the parliament. It's a small representation. So his state.
What you can say is that he is, for the first time, he is not sitting inside the parliament himself.
And in the province also. In the province. I mean, they had a huge defeat in the last election.
Yeah.
So obviously for him it is something.
But do you understand that when you're looking at the electorate holistically, you are a common stakeholder with all the opposition parties.
Absolutely.
And no matter what you do, these parties have decided who their leader is going to be. They are not going to ask PTI. So you cannot shortchange their leadership. All you can do is realize that you have common stakes and reach out to them.
Farrukh, like you said that after 3 years we all have to go back to the people and ask for the vote. I think when PTI after 3 years goes back to the public, we can only get votes based on our performance.
Right.
Nothing else will matter. If we, by that time, if we have performed well, if the people are happy, if there is employment, if there is a controlled inflation, if there is economic activity, if there is good governance, obviously we'll get the confidence of the people in the next elections. But if we fail to perform, then obviously no other dynamics will work.
Right. Sitara Sahaba, let me ask you something that was highlighted by Ahmed Jawad Sahab. This idea of dynasties and controversial dynasties is not limited to two parties. It is also extended to your party. Maulana Fazlur Rahman also. ANP, then People's Party, PMLN. What is the solution?
National Party. There are so many parties.
With the exception of their party, because Imran Khan Sahab, mashallah, has been the leader for past 25 years, 26 years. But apart from that, just tell me how to solve this riddle. Political parties are supposed to be democratic parties. None of them hold elections within. So how are you going to actually...
They do. Every party, they are having the elections within a party.
Right.
But yes, you are right, that there is no democracy within the parties, and we need to work on this thing.
Okay.
All the democratic parties, they need to work on this thing. Otherwise, they are becoming weaker day by day.
Right.
Even the big parties and the small parties, all the parties are facing the same thing. And then their workers, naturally, they also get fed up of all these internal politics also. Internally, when they are not getting space to come forward. So this, I agree that this is a problem, and this is a problem with their party also. But
whose party?
The PTI, because he himself is right now there.
Right.
But later on, we don't know, but it is going to happen because the party
Imran
leaders,
Khan
they
is
don't
not,
listen.
he might be a brand, but he is not a dynasty.
Yeah, he's
There is
not.
nobody waiting for him to take over from his own bloodline, is it?
If in future you don't know. But
That
right
won't
now
happen.
he is not.
That
Right
won't
now,
happen.
how can you say? How can you say?
But we can say one thing. There is absolutely no visibility of any family member of Imran Khan right now. Future, yes, you might be right. I don't know.
Okay.
You don't know. But at least we should agree on this thing. That any political party which you mentioned, all the political parties, when they are in the government, their family members are all over.
I agree with this.
But in case of PTI, Imran Khan's no family member, you will see.
Yeah,
in
but
the government.
you realize Imran Khan Sahib is very popular, and I understand within your party's ranks he is going to be there. But number 2, number 3, number 4 people, they used to be elected through an election process. Now that doesn't seem to be happening. Your party seems to have lost internal democracy as well.
Yes, they did. All
Farrukh, we are probably the first political party who went for a very large scale elections in our party. We had 2 times.
Okay.
And after coming into the power, we have made a transition organization which will eventually turn into an election, people appointed through the elections.
Okay.
So I think right now perhaps there is too many problems and challenges and threats. First it was Corona and now PDM.
When was the last undisputed election within the party?
I think it was 2016 or 17.
It was disputed.
No.
Before that, the one that took place, that was not disputed.
No,
because here Jahangir Tareen Sahab was getting elected, and people, I mean, nobody knows me when it comes to comparison to Jahangir Tareen. I would stand and no notable would confront it.
You asked me the question, the last elections which were held in PTI.
Undisputed.
I mean, this is something for you, it might be disputed, but for me...
Your party actually carried out an investigation.
I think the second election, which was in 2016 or 17, I'm not recalling the exact year, these were even less disputed than the previous election. Right. There were more disputes in the previous election, which was in 2013.
Okay. So there are disputes, you agree?
There were in 2013. The second elections, they were better. They were very less
without any problem.
So,
Jahangir Tareen Sahab
we have a continuity of elections. You know, in last 10 years, we have 2 elections and third will also come.
Okay. Ma'am, obviously, we don't have any silver bullet to take care of authoritarianism within political parties. But let me ask you, to conclude the program for us, keeping in mind PDM's demands and the government's reaction as well. Your conclusion.
Well, I just want to say that what my brother said, that the Prime Minister is very popular in UN and in other international forums.
Okay.
I just want to, I must say that at this stage I want to request him actually to come forward, to have some efforts to reach these people and to solve these problems. These are the problems of masses also. He should reach or he can instruct the governments to reach the masses, to reach the people, to solve these problems. But I know that he will not.
But there is a counter argument also given by Ahmad Jawad Sahab that opposition keeps on demanding NRO, and that is not going to happen.
Well, not
I'm
on
told
NRO,
that we have
on the
done out of
national
time.
issues. But on national issues they can sit.
Yeah,
why
but,
not?
Yeah, but that actually...
and that is the government to sit with.
That
them,
actually projects a very strange kind of picture. On one side you're paying for blood of each other. On the other side you're sitting together whenever it quote-unquote relates to the establishment. That becomes a problem. But with due respect, let me conclude the program. Satara Ayaz Saiba, thank you very much, ma'am, for being part of the program. Ahmad Jawad Sahab, thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Taj Haider Sahab joined us on telephone. Thank you very much to him again. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. The problem is that opposition parties have created this banner movement called PDM, Pakistan Democratic Movement. But right now, when we were discussing various political parties, and we were not merely talking about opposition parties, we were talking about all parties. The problem that stands out is the approach of political party leaderships to their own parties. If you don't have democracy within your own ranks, what happens then? How can you talk about democracy in the country, right? That is the biggest crisis that keeps PMN and People's Party behind. And then naturally they are going to come up with a narrative. That narrative will be countered by the ruling PTI as well. But again, if you are selling something, at least take a morsel and taste it first. If you believe in democracy, then charity and democracy should begin at home. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.
Islamabad, the capital city, bustles with politicians and business activity. It stretches out around the foothills of the Mughals. To many, Islamabad is just that, lush green views in a modern, urbanized capital that houses politicians, diplomats and the Pakistani elite. But it is while driving through the stucco gate that the line between urbanization and traditionalism blurs us into an eclectic blend of the past and the present. The alleyways that bend through the village hold remnants of a rather colorful, regal history. A tourist site today, the village was once a garden resort known for its natural springs. The historical significance of the city of Islamabad is unknown to many, and for this reason, the Capital Development Authority preserved Saidpur, a Mughal-era village located within the capital city. Through the periods of history that Saidpur has existed, it has been influenced by civilizations such as the Gandhara, Greek, Buddhist, Mughal, Ashoka and British colonialism. Saidpur village is said to be 300 years old, but the elders argue it is even older than most believe it to be. Saidpur's name originates from Sultan Said Khan. He was a son of the Ghakkar chief of the Pothohar region during Mughal Emperor Babur's reign, Sultan Sarang Khan. The village was gifted by Sultan Said Khan to his daughter, who married the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, the son of Emperor Akbar.
मैं शांति से पैदा हुआ तो इस गांव का नाम सैदपुर था। उससे पहले जो नाम था वो राजा सैद खान हमारा बड़का था। उसने इलाका फतह किया। उसने फतेहपुर बावली नाम था, गुरुद्वारा भी था, मस्जिद भी थी। हम लोगों के साथ एक दूसरे के साथ प्यार करते थे।
Later, the village was recognized as the pilgrimage site by the Hindu commander Raja Man Singh. In 2006, the CDA began remodeling project of the Saidpur village. The French government provided technical assistance in the remodeling procedure. The purpose of the preservation project was to give visitors a taste of the multicultural, multifaceted heritage of Pakistan. The initial cost of this cultural project at the time was estimated at 400 million rupees. French Ambassador Régis de Bellonnet was very supportive of this initiative and invited French architect Max Bois-Robert. Bois-Robert gave his expertise to develop remodeling methods that would not only give the necessary modern upgrades, but also preserve the natural impact of the village. Extensive preservation work was done to restore historical sites such as the Hindu Mandir and Sikh Gurdwara. Mud houses were given an uplift to improve aesthetics. Workers toiled to conserve the traditional atmosphere by restoring stone walls and adding haystacks and horse-drawn carts. Today, Saidpur preserves the historical face of the Potohar region. Boasting old rural roots with a modern edge, Saidpur is a manifestation of the transition Pakistan is making in developing both economically and socially. Saidpur historically was a village settled by craftspeople. Today, the present generations have continued the legacy of their forefathers and kept their art alive in the form of handiwork.
ये जो बर्तन बनाने वाला काम है, मैं 10 साल का था उस वक्त काम शुरू किया है। इस वक्त मेरी 50 साल उम्र हो गई है यही काम करते करते। सैदपुर में 6 खानदान सारे यही गुजर गए काम करते करते। तो ये गांव इसी ट्रेन की वजह से मशहूर है। मिट्टी की ट्रेन जो बनी है ये 120 साल पुरानी है।
I think that it's amazing that they have restaurants here now, but they still kept that, that original look, and the village is still there, and the people get to do something, contribute, just help the economy. I think it's great.
These doors, these windows are antique. They are rustic and beautiful.
The place is so beautiful, and according to architecture, according to designing, according to painting, all the people of Pakistan should visit this place.
Visitors can take in lush green views and pay visits to historical sites such as the Nomad Art Gallery, Old Sufi Tomb, the Hindu Temple and the Sikh Gurdwara. Many popular restaurants and cafes also line the entrance of the village to cater to the palate of visitors with tantalizing local cuisines sure to stimulate anybody's taste buds. Preservation projects such as these uphold our heritage and establish our footprint in history. These places are our cultural assets, and we should take pride in the richness of Pakistani history. Saidpur is a must-see for all Pakistanis and foreigners alike. The world over, many have spoken for Pakistan, but it is these voices that tell the true story of this beautiful country. It is these places that echo the tales untold. There is much to discover to capture the true face of Pakistan.
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Chandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Chandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level. The first time a polo tournament took place on the Chandur Pass was in 1936. It is a place unique and exotic in itself, surrounded by some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in the world.
You are watching PTV World.
welcome to PTV World News with the latest news and updates. I'm Sana Makbool.
Joining Sana Makbool, I'm Shahzad Qayyum. Let's look at